welcome to the Spooky Barber Babes podcast, and we finally have video. And dun, 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 this is Brianna,
the second babe.
only took a few months, but we're good. We're good.
She was just waiting for me to get my shit together. It's fine. It's fine.
Pretty much. So a little bit of backstory about what's going on. I swing in chairs, so if this is I'm sorry.
I have a spinny chair too, so her and I share the same anxiety, so we're so sorry if we make everyone
Someone's gonna be dizzy by the end of watching this, it is what it is.
Someone's gonna need a fidget spinner to like make up for
No, I'm just fidgeting with a bottle. So basically just a little recap on our hiatus. Again, was waiting for her to get her shit together. And
I just moved. For those of you who don't know, we worked in the same place and I literally moved states. So yeah, hence the virtual.
So we're gonna try to get together a little bit more like this, record some stuff, start up the YouTube. You'll be seeing a little bit more since we're doing this. There'll be a little more on the Instagram page. So if you're not following, like and follow us over on Facebook at Spooky Barber Babes PC and on Instagram at the Spooky Barber Babes. Try to update that as often as possible. Podcast usually goes up a couple times a week, as long as we're not busy. With Brianna leaving over at the shop, we've kind of been short-staffed like everywhere else, so that's why I have not been on as much as I would like, but slowly but surely we're getting our groove back, like Stella's got her groove back.
And the place that I moved to, it's the same company. It's one of those stores that it's a joke how busy the store is, considering it is in a shopping center that is like a tumbleweed blows by. It is the weirdest thing, but it is busy. And yeah, so there's an AC Moore in the shopping center. The AC Moores don't exist anymore, for those who don't know. So
yeah. No, they really don't exist anymore, and I'm trying to get this figured out, so don't mind me. Just don't mind me. I'm sitting over here just going, okay, I'm just gonna stick that there. And
hopefully too, with the YouTube platform as well, when it comes to editing, we can also potentially once we figure out how to kind of edit and figure all that out when it comes to the podcast, what's the equivalent, the transfer or the whatever. We can figure out, I don't know either. We can figure out overlaying photos and kind of stuff like that if we can at some point, not promising today, but at some point.
Pretty much just give us some time to get used to this format and whatnot. Also,
we're assuming if you're here, you kind of have an idea as to what we're talking about. So
yeah, and I mean, so big shout out to all of our listeners, because honestly, you guys have been amazing since the beginning. I think our podcast finally hit 220 some listens over the last couple months. So thank you. Big shout out to all of you. So today,
I can't take credit for any of that. That's all Crystal.
Look, I always say we in our videos. I always in the audio, I always say we. And look, there is a we now. You guys see this. There is another person that exists. I promise.
She's not just talking about her and the mouse in her pocket. It's fine.
It is what it is. So we're gonna actually start off today with a line of stuff that we're gonna be doing for October. It is spooky season. And with that, like I had mentioned on the last podcast, the end of this month, I don't know if we're going to do videos for it or if it's just going to be audio or video and audio, me doing one, Brianna doing another, but we've done a lot of research on murders that were done around Halloween time over the last couple decades, and so I plan on doing a whole bunch, one a day at the end of the month. Again, don't know if there's going to be a video portion for that or not. If there is, just like and subscribe. Pretty sure the button's down over there somewhere.
Oh God, we've become those people. Like and subscribe. Get this to 100,000 likes if you'd like to see this video.
I promise there will be no OnlyFans people, so don't even get your hopes up.
No, don't even. It's not gonna happen. Nope.
So for today, we are actually going to be stepping into it's this viral video that went insane back in 2013 and kind of branched off even more recently. But people were just recently seeing there's actually a whole story behind this. We're going to actually touch on the Elisa Lam case And we want to touch a little bit on the Cecil Hotel as well. So hopefully you guys can, follow along, let us know what you think, and let's get started. So we're going to start this off by giving you guys a little bit of information of where we're kind of getting a lot of our stuff from. So at the beginning of this year, there were two different specials. On January 4th of 2021, there was the Discovery Plus show by Ghost Adventures. It was a 2-hour special called the Cecil Hotel. If you have not given that a listen to, I would or not a listen to, but a watch. I would definitely give that a look. And then there's also the 4-episode docuseries titled Crime Scene: The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel, which of course goes into the Elisa Lam case, goes into people who thought this random black metal musician killed her. I mean, there's a lot
That was
of
a stretch.
but the worst part about it is that man got death threats.
Yeah.
I think that's what really, he got death threats just because of his music. Like, he didn't even know anything about it. I think they said he was back home when it happened. He gave up music. They talk about it, I think, in the last episode of the series, is they actually talk to the dude and he's just like, I had no idea. He goes, it was just music. That was it. It wasn't like, oh, me confessing my crimes. And I feel like that's where people get a little too super crazy and into things. It's just like, dude, bugger off.
On top of it, I think the time frame that he stayed there was easily 3 years beforehand, before
Was it
her
3 years?
disappearance.
I thought it was a couple months beforehand.
No, it was there wasn't. Well, I mean, I forget if it was months but there was an extended period of time. The timelines didn't line up at all. So
yeah. But so, I mean, either way, like I said, if you guys haven't seen the Discovery Plus special or the Netflix specials, I definitely say check them out if you are kind of interested in all this kind of stuff. So I don't know how many of you guys followed the Elisa Lam case and how many of you actually even know who Elisa Lam is. But Elisa Lam was a college student who was here from the University of British Columbia, from up in Vancouver. And I say up because, Delaware here, PA there. And she was just visiting Los Angeles for what I'm assuming was just a vacation, just trying to get away. There was documents saying that she was at a couple different places in California and that she was actually due to go somewhere else when she was to check out. But basically, during this whole stretch, her family kept a big secret from everyone. Most people didn't know that she suffered from bipolar disorder and do you remember what the other disorder was? It was bipolar and I want to say depression.
I believe it was depression, yeah, because those two are typically linked anyway. So
yeah, and I mean the family had said that she was on 4 different types of medication to treat it, but they kept her mental health to nobody knew anything. And that, they
the only inklings that there really were her Tumblr.
Yeah. Yep.
Because she was very, very active on Tumblr, but that's about it.
I'm so glad you said that because that was what I was going to go into, because it wasn't just Tumblr, it was also Blogspot. Her blog was called Etherfields and she posted a crap ton on it. Posted pictures of models and the most fashionable clothing. And she took account of her life, what she was going through on the day-to-day. Again, the Netflix documentary talks about that. They actually get into some of it. I personally did not go on to the Blogspot. I don't even know if it's still there at this point. I think it might have been taken down. Who knows? It could still be up just as a hey, here you go. But again, the docuseries has it, so I would definitely say take a look on that. But leading up on her trip, she was very active on her blog, very active on social media, Instagram, all that. She's posting pictures about the zoo that she went to and all this other stuff. And she was known to check in with her parents. So let's make that clear. She wasn't just some teenager, not even teenager, mid-20s or early 20s.
I think she was 21.
Yeah. So it wasn't like she was just some 20-year-old out drinking and partying and doing all this other stuff. She was literally just trying to enjoy her life. She checked in with her parents, let them know, hey, I'm okay, I'm alive. But on January 26th, she arrived in Los Angeles. And 2 days later, on January 28th, she had checked into the Cecil Hotel, which she was only scheduled to be there for a few days. It was said that she was supposed to check out on the 1st of February, but her parents never got the phone call from her saying like, hey, I'm okay, I'm going to Santa Cruz. Nothing. There was nothing, not a word. But when she checked in, she was originally sharing a room with roommates, which, I mean, I don't know what hotel would randomly put you in with other people that you're not with. I mean, isn't that like technically what is it, a hostel, hacienda, one
I
of
think that's what
those?
they called it. Was technically it became more of a hostel style, and I think that's where the stay on Main, which is technically I think where she checked in, but they were putting her in the Cecil portion just because the stay on Main was kind of like the front of
No,
like the newer.
if I remember, the stay on main didn't become a thing until after that happened.
Okay,
Yeah, but the stay
because I
on
know
main
they
was a
were
thing.
trying to like,
They were trying to classy it
yeah,
up, but actually,
yeah,
because this was so close to Skid Row, and there were people that literally took up residence in the Cecil Hotel, I want to say the stay on Main was, there's like only like 3 or 4 floors that was actually called the stay on Main, and the rest of it was all still the Cecil Hotel because it was full with residents. Which, I mean, sketch,
yeah.
sketchy.
I mean, we grew up in a state that unfortunately, I mean, how many people rented out motel rooms as just a place to live
So like,
because
I feel like renting out a motel that's the expected. Like, motel
Mhm.
is like a place that you can stay for long periods of time because their rates are a lot cheaper, and they do have
Yeah,
like weekly, monthly rates. Whereas
yeah,
in hotels, they're just like, in my brain growing up, a hotel was always like a destination.
right.
There was a hotel back where I live, not even a hotel, it was a motel back where I lived, and because I grew up in Maryland, and I want to say it was Steele's Motel right off of Route 40. They were like literally like little, they look like little houses. They didn't even look like your
Mhm.
regular motels. They were like all like look like individual little houses that people would stay in. But
Mhm.
even then, I mean, I guess it was just cheaper than renting. But either
Yeah,
way, I think with the Hotel Cecil, they should have marketed it as hostel style,
yeah,
not, I
yeah,
say hostel and my brain just goes to the movie Hostel. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think that kind of delves back into the history of the Cecil because initially they built it to be this grand 1920s hotel
Yeah.
just for it, 5 years into it for the Great Depression to hit. And then
Yeah, it was
throughout the history of the economy, they're
yeah,
like,
I
well,
mean, it just fell into decay. I mean, and,
yeah,
and then you put it in a neighborhood where it's like really nice, but I mean, there's been several different incidents that have happened.
mhm,
I mean, you've got the 1964 Pigeon Goldie, Goldie Osgood. She was raped and murdered in
yeah.
her room. That's an unsolved case that's there. You had serial killers, Jack Winter. Well, gosh, I cannot pronounce his last name.
I just listened to it,
Untergerwerger.
or Unterweger, I think
I
it's pronounced.
I
Yeah.
think. But and then you had Richard Ramirez that lived there too while they were active. And then, there was a bunch of suicides where, the pedestrian, like a lady jumped out the window and landed on a pedestrian and killed him. There
Woman gave birth to
was,
a baby in the bathroom, threw the baby out the window because she assumed it was dead.
yeah. And if I'm correct, didn't she actually hide that from her husband? Like, she gave birth in the bathroom,
I
her
think
husband
so.
was
Yeah,
asleep, and
she
she
did.
just,
Like, it was one of those I didn't know I was pregnant situations.
I'm thinking that was what it was.
Yeah,
They did try. I will say this: they did try to rebrand themselves as a boutique hotel. Nah, I don't think
they
so.
do kind of go into that a little bit in the Netflix documentary. Is that's what they were kind of going for, was trying to reclass it a little bit between, the the reputation of Skid Row and then
I
what it
don't
had been known as.
honestly. I don't think they're you.
No.
What is it? What is it? You can polish up a turd, but it's still a turd.
Yeah. I
Isn't
mean,
that kind
how
of what it
long did the
is?
Cecil Hotel have that banner up for the longest time? It was like daily, weekly, monthly at some point.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's since been covered up by a different thing because I'm pretty sure it's,
the Cecil
yeah.
Hotel and Stay on Main are both closed.
Yeah.
So just so everyone knows, if you're out in the LA area around Skid Row, do not
You can't
try to
stay
go
there.
there. You can't go there. If I'm correct, they boarded up. And I want to say the documentary talked about that. Because I want to say they recorded their stuff, I guess, after Ghost Adventures did, because when Ghost
Yeah.
Adventures went there, they were, if I'm correct, people were there.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it
There's
was,
rumors that if you pay enough people off that you could be allowed like an hour in, because I know the one YouTube and TikToker Pete I'll look up his last name. He was allowed in for like 2 hours or something like that, but we don't recommend it. We
yeah.
don't recommend it. No amount of views are
And
worth the
just,
government finding you.
yeah, and the other thing about all this too that everyone needs to keep in mind is this place, it's shut down. You don't know, it's right next to Skid Row. People could break in. You're literally taking your life into your own hands by walking in there. It's trespassing. That can also get you arrested. So just keep that in mind if you're thinking about, oh, I'm going to go visit this place and I'm just going to go in and try this.
Don't
So again, originally she shared this room with a bunch of people. I don't think I think they said what, 3 people, something like that.
So.
And it was about 2 days later that she was moved to a solo room because her roommates were complaining that she was just doing odd shit. We're talking like, I think she was leaving notes on people's stuff, like, oh, you took this, you took that, like just weird shit, freaky shit in the middle of the night. And I mean, I guess once enough odd behavior, it kind of it'll send some people doing some crazy shit. But so actually I'm gonna let Brianna take this next fight because the odd behavior was actually caught on video. And I mean, I'm pretty sure like she said, when we figure out how to add things in, we'll put the video in so you guys, or at least a clip of it, or just a little link in the description below if you want to go take a look. But some pretty odd stuff.
Yeah. So basically the biggest thing is the infamous footage of her in the elevator from the security cam footage. She's seen in the elevator pushing a bunch of buttons, not really in any kind of sort of order. At one point, I mean, I've watched a couple body language analysis videos that broke down the whole security cam footage. Of course, all of them will be linked down below, source wise, but a lot of them break down like her looking like she's hiding in the corner and kind of trying to look like she's hiding from someone, but also like peeking out like, ooh, security, or like curiosity is sparking. And she's acting very odd, very erratic. At one point she looks like she's talking to someone. So there's a couple theories. The biggest one is that she is playing what's called the elevator game, or elevator to another world game. Basically, there's a bunch of different things that have to happen in this game. It's a paranormal game, for those that don't know. You can find a bunch of different videos of people who do those like scary kind of videos, physically playing it.
I'm just gonna
Sam.
pop in real fast on that. So Zach Bagans does do the elevator game in the Discovery Plus documentary.
Yeah.
I do not suggest doing this.
Yeah.
Even he kind of says the same thing because he didn't read through it all before he started.
He did not do it correctly initially. He did not read he was trying to read the directions as he went. We don't recommend doing that. Read the instructions for a like if you're into this kind of thing, please by all means read these things thoroughly before you attempt. Well, again, we don't recommend doing it, but if you're into that kind of thing,
you're gonna do it, because let's face it, we all know when you tell somebody they shouldn't do it, they're gonna do it anyways.
Gonna do it. So basically the idea behind it is you have to play it alone in a building with 10 or more floors. You need at least 10 floors for this to work. The idea behind it is that if you go to certain floors in a certain sequence, that the world that you were in would look exactly the same, only you would apparently be the only one in there of the living. But basically, if there were ghosts in that other dimension, you'd be able to see them if they were there. So as I said, Sam Goldbach, he was from Sam and Colby. They've got way more money than we do, and they don't have to work, and they're way younger than us, and it's kind of sad. But basically, he made a video in 2018 where he did this experiment at the Roosevelt Hotel, and he actually played the game, and he in fact referenced the Elisa Lam footage from the elevator in the Cecil. That's kind of what he thinks that she was playing. But yeah, basically how this game is played is you start at the first floor. You can't proceed or you have to start over if anyone gets in with you. at any point, basically. If like an actual person gets in, oh, got to start over. So you start at the first floor, you have to go to the fourth floor, down to the second floor, up to the sixth floor, back down to the second floor, up to the 10th floor, and then back down to the fifth floor. And at this point, a girl is supposed to get into the elevator with you. It's important that you don't look at her, talk to her, acknowledge she's there. Any of the ones have basically said, do not talk to her, like
Which
in bold.
which
Yeah.
let's face it, that's Zach actually
Yeah.
stepped out and was like, I feel cold chill, and
Yeah.
actually
And
tried
acknowledge that
interacting
she's
with
there.
it. So he
Yeah.
acknowledged it.
So, but yeah, more on Zach Bagans later. But basically, if all these things happen the way that they're supposed to, you're supposed to press the first floor, the lobby floor, it's all the same. And the elevator is supposed to ascend on its own then to the 10th floor. And then at that point, you have been given your pass to the other world. Basically, if that happens, again, it's going to look exactly the same, supposedly, but just you're the only one there. And if you do interact with people, they're otherworldly, I guess.
Like pretty much they're basically saying they're dead, they're
Yeah.
spirits.
And then to undo this game, you basically have to do all these steps all over again. And same deal, if someone gets in the elevator with you, you have to start all over, and you could potentially be caught in this. But also, here's my question. So if someone gets in the elevator with you, but you're supposedly in this other world, how do you know if they're living or dead?
Thank you. I was wondering that myself. It's like, okay, so is this
Mic
living
drop.
person or
Like, that's my thing, is it's like,
and like what if this person talks to you while you're doing this? This just seems like a lot to
yeah,
get.
it's
This
it's
just
a
seems like a
lot.
waste of time. I'm not gonna lie.
It
It
just
does seem like a
seems,
bit of a waste
yeah.
of time.
Not
It's
to
like,
mention the waste of electricity at, like, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to play this at like midnight or 3 a.m.
well,
So like,
okay.
how annoying
So
must this be?
here's my next thing. What happens if you're doing all this and you break the elevator?
Right? What if you're stuck?
What
if
if
you're
what
stuck?
like are you then trapped in this like
Yeah.
other world? Like there's too many questions. Too
So
many
many
damn
questions.
questions.
But basically, yeah, this is the game that is believed that she was playing. Yeah, it's hard to say because a lot of the footage is grainy, there's time gaps, but you also can't really see because different videos have like coverings over top of the time things.
So
She's blocking.
actually the covering on the time is actually why people are saying that the video was edited,
It's edited.
because the
Yeah.
police actually, and they said that the timestamp was covered out. I forget why they said they did that, but they did cover out the timestamp from the police releasing the video,
Yeah.
because I mean, if I'm correct, they released the video after 2 weeks after she disappeared,
Yeah.
because they didn't want to put it out there and have people thinking it was a hoax, because I mean,
Yeah.
let's face it, when you see the video it looks like a hoax.
Yeah. But it's hard to say because at one point, like I said, she's basically just pressing a bunch of buttons. Which if she was playing this game, you press one individually and go to the floor. So you actually see her in the video like do 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 do, and like the very last one that she presses is the door hold button, which holds the door open for like 2 minutes. So that's kind of why. And there's no instruction in that game that that's part of it at all. So yeah, like that's kind of like. And then again, between the body language videos and then also you see like her kind of like looking out and kind of doing the things. But yeah, there's an addition that like in addition to playing the game, that if she was successful, that her erratic behavior when she looks like she's talking to somebody is her talking to the spirit of the famed serial killer Richard Ramirez, which I would argue is a major stretch, like Mr. Incredible level stretch, or no, Mrs. Incredible level stretch.
No, I think you were
Like,
going off of Mr. Fantastic, like
yeah, but
Mr. Fantastic,
you
yeah.
know where I was going with that, but still, like that's a stretch if I've ever heard one. How many deaths happened in that hotel? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, basically, if she's playing the game, like I said, she wasn't doing it correctly.
No.
If that's what she was doing, according to any of the sources that I found. So yeah, so it's hard to say. It's a stretch, but basically, yes, she's acting extremely erratic. It's odd that somebody would be in an elevator for that long, especially since she like hunches down and like looks like she's doing a bunch of weird stuff with the buttons, and yeah. So it's hard to say. So I don't know.
Yeah. So going back onto the Elisa Lam disappearing act, pretty much, everything kind of started happening on February 1st. Again, we don't know where exactly what day or time that the video had happened for the elevator thing, but she was actually scheduled to check out of the hotel on the 1st. And what ended up happening is she went missing. She didn't call her parents, so her parents called LAPD and they flew out to help find their daughter. Um, Most of the hotel staff that saw her that day said, she was alone. That's all they could remember. She was alone. But it was actually a nearby manager of a bookstore that was like, yeah, I saw her. She was very outgoing, very lively, super friendly. She was trying to purchase some gifts to take home, but she was worried that they would be too heavy for her to carry around when she traveled. Um, and I mean, the police went through the hotel trying to find her, but they couldn't just sit there and force themselves into other people's rooms without just cause. So I mean, they did even take the search dogs up to the roof and her scent was not picked up. So that's where like the whole, oh, she did this to herself, it was a suicide, it doesn't make sense to me, because how did her scent go away?
Yeah.
But they basically, like, it was February 6th, a week after she had last been seen. They put up flyers and images and posters and did some stuff online trying to get, public attention to this. Um, but how they discovered the body, I would have to say, is one of the worst ways ever. There had been, like, for the whole time she was gone, there was complaints about water pressure. The color of the water was coming out black. It had an unusual taste. It was disgusting. It was foul smelling. And enough of these complaints went through to management that they were finally send someone up. And that's actually where his name was Santiago Lopez. And he does address it on his own in the documentary. I think he even addresses it with Ghost Adventures too. I want to say he's with them as well, but
Okay.
he's the one that found her. And certain things say she was laying face down. Some say that she was found lying face up, but they had 4 1,000-gallon tanks on top of the hotel. And Elisa was found inside one of the tanks. Now, the messed up part about this is the tank was closed. There's no ladder inside. There's no ladder outside. Well, there's a ladder outside, but there's no ladder inside. There's no way of getting yourself in and pulling the lid shut behind you. So what I want to know, if for them to get her out, they couldn't send somebody in, tie her, and then pull her out, and then send somebody in and then tie themselves and pull them out. Like, they couldn't do that. So explain to me why, how did she get in there? I mean, some people were saying, oh, she was drunk and she was going for a swim. Some people said that she was shoved in. Some people say that she got knocked out and was dumped in. But they literally had to drain a whole tank of water and cut her out of the bottom, so that they cut out the bottom so they could pull her out, which is still disgusting enough on its own. But they did find her. It was February 19th. And I mean, you got to think, how many guests had breakfast that morning,
Yeah.
drank their coffee, brushed their teeth, took a shower? I don't know about you, but come on, some of us sing in the shower. That water's going in our mouths regardless. I may not be able to carry a tune, but it is what it is. But I mean, all of that. It also ran like the water went into the coffee shop that was in the hotel as well. So you're just like, how many people have been drinking Elisa Lam?
Yeah.
And I hate to
And
say it that way.
I think that's what the one couple said in the documentary, was that what they were most freaked out about was like, well, how, I mean, we've been here for X amount of days.
I think they were there for 8
So
days.
yeah, like, so how many days, like, and we encountered this every single day that we were here. So it's a little, yeah.
I'm surprised there wasn't any like sick issues on that end
Yeah.
as well, because it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
gross.
It's, yeah.
But so one thing that they did say was that her body was decomposed. She was bloated, mostly like greenish. There was a little bit of abdominal and skin separation there, which was great. Here's the other thing. They found her naked.
Yeah.
So, okay. The clothing was in there with her. But they were like, okay, so you have this, her clothing's there, but everything's covered in this sand grainy stuff. And her room key, her watch was all found with her. But they said that there was no evidence of physical trauma, sexual assault, or suicide, and that it had shown that her toxicology basically showed traces that were just the normal medication that she was prescribed, but they did find two non-prescription drugs, which was Sinutab and ibuprofen, which, I mean, we all know what ibuprofen is. And they said there was a very, very, very small amount of alcohol in her system and no recreational drugs. So the investigators had actually tried to say that the concentration of the prescription drugs in her system indicated that she had either stopped taking her meds altogether or that she was under medicating herself. And I mean, still to this day, I think they even tried to say, like, they're trying to rule it as a suicide, if I'm correct, even though there's no evidence of it. There's no note, there's no nothing there, but I think they want to, I'm pretty sure that's what they're trying to list it as, is it's a suicide.
Mm-hmm. Or it was like an accidental suicide or something like that. Yeah.
But it still doesn't explain why she was up there. And I mean, and who's to even say she was alone? That's my whole thing. Like, who's to say that she wasn't alone? Or who's to say she wasn't playing a game, that they just didn't catch somebody on film telling her, oh, I dare you? And because, I mean, if she did stop taking her meds and she was bipolar, who's to say she didn't have a bipolar episode and somebody just didn't handle it well and just went,
I mean, and delving into kind of the conspiracy aspect of it, I mean, okay, so if we want to go there, you know, we're a spooky podcast, so, you know, I feel like we kind of have to go there on some level. So going to the paranormal perspective here, wasn't it in Rose Red that they brought the autistic girl because she was more vulnerable and, you know, all those other things? So theoretically, there is that possibility that if she was under some sort of influence by a paranormal presence, not saying Richard Ramirez, just in general, there could be some dark ass people roaming around that place.
Well, yeah, so, I do want to say that I think they've kind of noted that a lot of people that do have more encounters have some type of vulnerability, I guess is what we'll call it, be it anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, some type of special needs even. And they also say children in general are just kind of opened up to that world.
So I mean, if she was bipolar and therefore depressive and was under medicating herself or stopped taking her medicine altogether, then here's to say her disorders would be a little heightened. So, who's to say that paranormal energy didn't say, ooh. So I feel like, yes. Yeah. So I'm not saying that that's not, the case. If we're going there, I'm not saying that she probably couldn't have interacted with some sort of paranormal presence to some aspect if that was the case. You see her again in the footage acting erratically as though she's hiding from something, like she's responding to something like, ooh, something caught my interest, that we can't see from the perspective of the security footage. Again, could it be a person? But I mean, we react to living people a little differently than how she's acting in that footage. It's very possible that she could be hallucinating, as well. So there's that as well. But I mean, say if it was like the manager of the hotel or the security person or something like that, if she was interacting with a person, she wouldn't be like, ooh, that's something weird that catches my eye. Like, she wouldn't be the body language just isn't there for.
I also think if it was
reacting to an actual human, you know.
I also think if it was the manager, I think she would have put herself into a frame. But I will say this: you can make your own opinion of the manager when you watch both the Discovery Plus Ghost Adventure special and the Netflix special. She seemed very much like more so worried about her hotel's reputation
Mhm.
than the fact that someone had died in her hotel.
Yeah.
And not just one person, but like she was more worried about the hotel's reputation and what would have came back on her
Mhm.
than, oh, you had a body floating in your tank. Oh, there's been how many suicides at this place? It's
Yeah.
and she even openly said that there was shootings and deaths almost that what how did she put it? She can almost guarantee that there was some type of death in every room at the Cecil.
Mhm.
Her own words.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get a bad depiction of her, is because she was just so unfazed by the whole thing. And I think that's what leaves so many people with a bad taste in their mouth. No pun intended with the water thing. But, because the fact that she was just so unfazed by it, the family was up in arms about it. Everybody, she's like, well, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So, like, I have a business to run. Like, what do you want me to do about it?
It
So
did
I
seem as
think
if
that's
she
what,
was like, mm,
yeah. So, I mean, and to some perspective, like, considering that like Crystal and I have literally both done the exact same job at this point, we kind of like, we have to care, but also like it's another day,
yeah.
you know.
It just
So
I feel like on a personal level, I think like if somebody got murdered at one of our jobs, I think we
well,
would
that'd
be
be a
like,
little different.
we would be like, oh crap.
That'd be a
But
little worrisome if
there would be a little
somebody
bit more of a different reaction.
got
Well, there would be more of a different reaction out of it. Like, I don't want to say that
yeah,
she's a stone cold woman, but at the end of the
right,
day, you're literally doing a documentary
yeah,
about this woman who, I mean, she's not just another face in
yeah.
the crowd. It's not like it's somebody that wandered in off Skid Row that you don't know their name, you know nothing about them. You literally talked to this woman.
She was a
You
paying
checked
customer.
her in.
Yeah.
You had dealt with the complaints. You had moved her. And yet you just didn't care that much. So I mean, there's even some theories that she did it. I mean, I saw
Well,
those
didn't
theories
they
out there
say
that she
too
did it.
that when it came to collecting her items, like they knew that like that was the whole big thing of, why they just assumed it was a suicide, because she left all of her stuff behind, as you would if you randomly fall into a water tank. Like, you wouldn't just take it all with you,
Oh, here, let me just put it all in the bag. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna take all
just
this with me.
yeet. like, like, no. Especially too, you and I are both working off of MacBooks. I believe if it's, she was dealing with a heavier MacBook Pro than the one that I'm currently dealing with. So they're not light by any means. So, her laptop was left behind, all of her medicine was left behind. I mean, you even said that she, went to a bookstore and purchased gifts and everything like that, but she couldn't carry them around. Why would she have gone to all that effort
Yeah.
if suicide was the plan all along? Like, it just
So
doesn't make any sense.
so in hindsight, just on that note, I mean, like sometimes the happiest people are the most depressed. And
Probably.
I always hate to say that. I mean, like Chester Bennington's wife had put out a picture literally, I think hours before his suicide, and was like, hey, he had the biggest smile on his face. He was happy go lucky. And then, few
Same
hours
with Rob.
later, he was gone. Same with Robin Williams. So I mean, I feel like that's not always the best thing to look
Yeah.
about it. But then again, like you said, she was adamantly buying things
Yeah.
for others that
Which I guess you could also make the argument too. I mean, at 21, I mean, depending on what type of family that she came from and how much money they sent her with, and, it's hard to say exactly what her spending situation was. So I guess there's also the argument of like, oh, well, you can't take it with you, so might as well spend it. But
I still don't think that was her
yeah, no,
mindset.
especially if she was known to check in with her parents frequently. She was active on social media. Like, if she was just actively putting thought into purchasing things like for gifts to take, or to
To
take
take
with
home.
her, yeah, it,
Yeah.
it just it doesn't, I don't know, there's
So
just things that don't add up.
so that's where the whole like suicide thing in my brain just doesn't make sense, because she had a plan to go home.
Yeah,
I
there's
think
the
if she
plan there.
was I think if she was actually trying to commit suicide, I don't think she would have done it so many miles away from her home. I
No.
always hate to say it that way. I feel like when people do that, they do it closer to home, either their own home, closer to family. I don't think she would have done it, what, couple hundred,
Yeah.
maybe a couple thousand miles away.
Yeah. Like
I
I
mean,
can
I'm
see the
not too sure
hotel
the
thing.
distance.
They do say that hotels are typically, or hotels and motels are typically the number one spot for people to commit suicide, just for the simple fact of their family doesn't
Have
typically
to
have to
clean it
find
up.
them. Yeah, typically also too, like you said, it's like their family doesn't have to clean it up. They're
But
not
they still do it
traumatized with a
relatively
space that they
close.
still have to live in, and
Yeah.
the nine. But
But
it's
sometimes,
still
I mean,
like,
if
yeah,
you're having a breakdown like that, you're not thinking,
like let me
you're
go
not
on the
really thinking
trip
about that.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, honestly, I don't even really think they get into why she took the vacation to Los Angeles. I think she was just, is a vacation. She was just going and traveling. I mean, what
Yeah.
21-year-old doesn't, dream of traveling? I mean, heck, I'm 31 and I dream of traveling. I know my limitations.
My
um,
idea of traveling is Disney World, so it's fine.
Speaking of Disney, don't you have a theory?
Okay, so it has nothing to physically do with Disney when it comes to Elisa Lam. But the idea behind the name Elisa Lam is interesting, considering that right around that time frame is when the tuberculosis cases started spiking around the Skid Row area. And the test involved with that particular strain of tuberculosis was called Lam Elisa. Same name, same spelling, just flip-flopped. So there's a theory that Elisa Lam was not actually even her real name. Again, these are all alleged things. We don't know. But the idea behind it was that it might have potentially been a cover-up name by the government to flood and take over the Google searches around that time frame, just so then that way people were kind of freaking out, like, oh no, TB, what's going on? So if they were to Google that, guess what pops up?
The
Nothing
Elisa
about
Lam case.
tuberculosis. It kind of floats it. And it kind of ties into the theory, if like, pre 2013, there was always a theory that Walt Disney was frozen or cryogenically frozen, or his head was frozen, or if it was
I
he
remember
was
that.
frozen underneath Pirates of the Caribbean somewhere.
I
Think about
remember
what
that.
movie came out in 2013 and what was it called? Frozen.
Yeah.
You Google Walt Disney's Frozen, you're not going to find anything about Walt Disney being frozen. Guess what you're going to find? Anna, Elsa, and Olaf. I
Yeah, yeah,
know.
and you know what the problem is? Like, okay, so it's funny that you actually mentioned that, and this is just going to be like, oh, totally a little off the wall here. But now that you said that, did you ever watch Robot Chicken?
Yeah.
So there was actually an episode of Robot Chicken where they talk about Walt Disney's head being frozen, and
Yeah.
that they bring him back with like this mechanical spider, and they feed him they feed him Cuban children.
Yeah. Which is
So
terrible. But
it's terrible, but like at the
yeah.
end of the day, like now that you think about that, you're just like,
Yeah.
oh.
So it's kind of the same theory as, government designs a certain name and a certain sequence to flood Google searches. So then that way when people Google something serious, they're, not actually like, they're not going to find those like what they're trying to find Google results for. They're just going
Oh,
to
that's
find,
horrible.
yeah. But I mean, it kind of goes into, just different like forms of media that just have weird tie-ins to it. The film Dark Water, that film came out in 2005. The Elisa Lam case was 2013. The girl, it basically has the same premise. There was a girl found in a water tank of a hotel, people drinking the water, etc., missing for a long period of time. The girl in the movie wearing almost the exact same outfit or the same colors.
So now that you say that, actually, that Dark Water, it's actually a Japanese movie that was made in 1996.
Okay.
It's literally it's a remake of a Japanese movie, just
But
like The
still,
Grudge.
all
The
of
Grudge
them
was a remake.
precedent. So
It all
it's one of
happened.
those, is it art imitating life or
I think
life trying to,
imitate art.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, because I totally forgot that. Yeah, I don't remember the actual name. I don't think it might have been Dark Water in Japan too. But yeah, no, it was 1996. The Japanese did the same. It was literally it was a short story by Koji Suzuki, and it was about a mother and a daughter move into a rundown apartment building, a dysfunctional elevator. Discolored water was gushing from all the faucets. And it literally led them to the water tank up top where they had found a body of a girl who was reported missing. It literally
Yeah.
is. And I always thought for some reason that it was flipped. I always thought
Yeah.
that those movies came out afterwards.
No.
Well, and so we also, the season finale of, it was the season finale of Castle. Came out in May of 2013, which this is after Elisa Lam. They had actually done an episode with, it's called Watershed, and the duo is pursuing the death of a young woman found dead in the rooftop tank of the Cedric Hotel in Manhattan. And among the evidence is, you guessed it, a video of a woman in an elevator acting all crazy. Ultimately, she is found to have been posing as a sex worker in order to investigate another guest in the hotel. But still, it's like how, and there's a bunch of different shows and movies that have actually taken bits and pieces from the case and literally just even remaking the whole case on its own. And you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
But it's like
Why?
there's a lot of just interesting weird tie-ins and theories that just kind of again make you think. And I mean, this case is obviously what, 8 years old at this point, so it's not like we're providing
Right.
groundbreaking information or anything like that at this point. I mean, it's all out there. There's been a million different podcasts, a million different shows, a million different documentaries done about it at
Bunch of
this point.
YouTubes.
So it's not like we're, flooding information that just has never been heard before.
We're
So I
slightly
mean,
late.
yeah,
I was saying we're slightly late to the game, but that's
you know.
okay.
But I mean, so when it comes down to it, it's just kind of, I feel like there's just going to be a lot of unsolved cases that I feel like, always keep people like you and me just intrigued. Just that makes you just question all the things like, okay, well, so this makes sense, but okay, well, for this to make sense, then this doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
But for this to make sense, then this wouldn't make sense. So like, I mean, it goes back to the the worker that said that he found her. There was inconsistencies with that. It could also be because of the language barrier, but initially he
that
said it
too.
was open, and then initially he said it was,
That was
and then he flipped
closed.
it and said it was closed
Hmm.
again. And then also I think they touched on it in, I believe it was both documentaries, both Ghost Adventures and
The Netflix
the
series.
actual Netflix one. But even Zach Bagans said it's all pipes. It's all pipes. Like, and she was barefoot with no shoes on. So how she, or I mean, even the shoes that she was wearing were like little tiny, like
The
they
actual,
like,
if I'm correct, they're the flip flop, like not the flip flops, but
yeah,
the sliding slippers.
yeah. So they were no traction, So how is
I-
she walking over pipes, let alone to a giant water tank with no ladder?
Well,
Like,
here's the biggest
yeah,
thing. I don't know if you look at the video, the ladder's pretty high up, like the
yeah,
gap between the base and the upper part of the, like where the ladder actually goes. There's a nice gap. And I mean, I don't think she was that tall. So I
no,
mean, what is she doing? And if you're trying to say that she was on something or under the
right,
influence or even through a bipolar episode, it, it mentally it doesn't make sense because you're saying that this woman had really good balance,
yeah.
really good eyesight, which, if I'm correct, in some of the photos, doesn't she wear glasses?
I believe so, yeah.
But yet there was no glasses. The video,
Yeah,
she's not wearing glasses. So my biggest thing is, and I've seen some pictures. I'm pretty sure she had glasses. I don't know if
yeah,
they were just reading glasses or whatnot. But I mean, you're basically trying to say this woman had cat-like reflexes and was
yeah,
able just to tiptoe over some pipes. You're
yeah.
saying that
Crazy
she had.
coordination, no less. Because if you're on something like, I know when I'm drunk, I'm not like,
Oh yeah, no,
just
I'm not doing the straight
walking
walk
over
and talking.
pipes. Like, no,
Sober, I can barely walk on a
right?
flat line,
Like,
straight line. I'm tripping over myself. But so you're basically telling me that this woman could see in the dark. Good. Oh, and
because there's no light.
and so here's the other thing. You're also telling me that she just didn't set off the door alarm.
Yeah,
Because they admit there's a door alarm on this door, this big emergency exit. There is a door that has an alarm
yeah.
that did not go off. So was it actually properly closed? First of all,
Mm-hmm.
is the alarm actually working? That is my
It,
other thing, because I don't think
yeah,
either documentary showed the alarm working.
yeah.
And that is my biggest question is, you want to tell me the alarm worked, show me the alarm worked.
Yeah.
Can you
And
prove
even
to
if
me
it
that
was
that alarm was
working, I
working?
mean, say she wasn't chummy with somebody that could have just,
Open the door.
had the master key. So, and then there's also the theory that she climbed up through the fire escape and this and that, which
But
that was the other
again,
thing that the manager couldn't answer was, oh, well, is there anything that prevents like a lock or, anything that prevents somebody from getting up there? And she couldn't answer that question either.
Yeah. And that was,
So
I don't think they had enough security, first of all.
no.
There was not enough security. There wasn't enough security cameras. I mean, I think what they said, the only security cameras were really the ones in the elevator. I think there may have been one in the lobby as well. But I mean, not enough security cameras. Like I said, you can't tell me the alarm worked. I don't care.
Yeah.
You can sit there and tell me, oh, it worked. Well, how do you know? When was the last time the door alarm was checked? Those things get checked by building codes. Was your building up to code?
Especially too, if she's saying that the building was hurting for money as much as it was, realistically, that's why there wasn't so many cameras, as many things that she wrote off in her, oh, well, the business was hurting. So like, what do you expect from a business that's practically going down every day? Like, it was just one of those things that she just kind of wrote off like, oh, well, what do you, no, of course we're not going to have 8,000 cameras
but I mean,
everywhere.
what's the biggest thing? You're right next to Skid Row and you're not going to have some type of security.
Yeah.
Not even security at the front door. You're not going to have anything to protect your well-paying guests.
Yeah.
You're not going to have anything to protect them. Nothing. Yeah. And it's like, it's to be honest with you, if I'm correct, I think the family sued the hotel because
like
of
wrongful death. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say that they won that lawsuit, and rightly so. I mean, at the end of the day, the hotel themselves could not say, this is all we could have done to prevent your daughter from anything. Nothing.
Well, and it doesn't help either that I believe the manager even said that she didn't even call the police right away. She called her mother.
Yep.
Calls her mother before she even calls the cops. So
like, how many, that's again where the conspiracy goes back onto the manager of, what were you trying to hide? Yeah. Because I'm sorry, in both documentaries, she looks guilty. And
because it wasn't her logic behind that, like, oh, well, I wanted to call my mother first because I wanted to let her know that she was about to see my work on TV. Like,
who cares? Call the cops first if you're worried about your image so much. And that's what I'm saying. Like, she's more worried about her image and what people would have thought about her. And that's where I was just like,
that's why she had to get how many shots of Botox into her face before she
no, come on, let's not assume that that's Botox.
Actually, one of the body language analysis guys that he was like, just judging by how the top half of her face does not emote, I'm gonna go with she's had the help of Botox.
Oh, yeah. Well, everyone, we are actually coming up to our end. We appreciate you guys sitting with us today and, finally taking the time to welcome Brianna into the folds. Yay! We got
her all over the place. We'll probably be a little more organized the next time, but
she says this, but we know it's gonna be the same.
We're both like squirrel.
Yeah. So next time, hopefully, I don't know. What do you want to do next time?
I don't know. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Let us know on Facebook. Reach out to us on Instagram and Facebook at
Spooky Barber Babes PC on Facebook, or the Spooky Barber Babes on Instagram. The other thing is, we do have a Twitter handle. I want to say that is also the Spooky Barber Babes. It may be Spooky Barbers because, let's face it, Twitter doesn't like me. And I made the Twitter back when we started this, when we were just going as the Spooky Barbers. And that was, yeah. So it's actually at Spooky Barbers, because again, they don't like me, and it wouldn't let me change my handle, which is fine. It's fine. So I update on there pretty often. Yeah. Reach out to us. Let us know what you want.
We have like a mini list. Chances are, if you reach out about one of the popular ones, it's already on there, which is fine. Well,
we'll get there.
Yeah. Realistically,
So the other thing I just want to give everybody a heads up on. So like I said, the last week of October, be prepared for like one a day leading up to Halloween. Who knows? We may even touch on the Zodiac update. Woo!
We could just do like a ponder potluck, if you will. like about a bunch of different things.
Which, I mean, there's a good chance we'll end up doing that anyways.
At this point, there's a whole new Halloween movie coming out. Her and I could both go see it separately and do an entire episode. The world is our
Oyster?
murderous oyster. I don't even know.
I
was trying to tie in something. I don't know.
So, and I mean, honestly, if I'm correct, Halloween Kills, which comes out, I think next Friday. Yeah. I also want to say that's on Peacock. So
yes, I believe it is streaming.
Who knows?
Actually, I want to say it's on HBO Max. I think
it's on one of the two of them. So either way,
one of the two of them.
We will be watching it. We will come to you live. Well, not live right then and there, because let's face it, that's copyright infringement.
Well, so I think we've determined what we're doing. We're doing an entire episode on Halloween Kills, or Halloween in general, probably. We could do a Halloween saga. There we go.
There we go.
The canon saga. The 3 through 6 are irrelevant.
So next thing you know, she's gonna say the Rob Zombie ones are irrelevant too, which I love Rob Zombie, but there was some stuff that could have been taken out of the second one that we're just we'll talk about that another time. So leading up to Halloween, there will be a murder for every day leading up to Halloween, and it looks like we'll be doing a Halloween Kills review. Also look forward to quite a bit of an array. There's a little something that's going on right now in the world, as we all know, which is the Gabby Petito case. There's a good chance we will be touching up on that. Also, drumroll, the Doomsday Couple are at it again. We'll be seeing them in the headlines next month. The trial for Chad Daybell is set to begin, I want to say, the 15th of November. We'll update everybody on that. That one's one that I kind of did on my own. So if Brianna is not available for that one, it will just be me. But let's face it, it's a little bit better when it's me and her bantering back and forth.
Even if it is at like 9 o'clock at night, we'll make it.
We'll figure something out.
Figure it out.
But yeah, so that's it for us today. Like, follow, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.